studied English, don't marry. My dad always wrung that in our heads. So it's important. Marriage is also important. You think it's a joke, but it's important. Also, another thing is dare to be different. So the first set of guys who started, okay, I'll tell you a story. There's a young man I know in Olaniwa Ajayi. He made partner relatively earlier than guys who I think were smarter. I know one or two guys I felt personally were smarter, were a bit more senior. But he went into an area, fintech. I can't remember his name, is Yoruba. I mention names because I have nothing to hide and I'm not going to malign anyone. I remember his name. The guy who just made partner in Olaniwa like last year. Damilola Salau, yeah. Damilola Salau. He made partner. Why? He did fintech. And I think he did a lot. So when you talk about fintech firms, you probably hear people mention Olaniwa. There's a firm people who mention ahead of Olaniwa. It's a very popular, they do a lot of fintech. TNP does a lot of fintech, and someone else does a lot of fintech. I can't remember. But they are very good when they say fintech. I can't remember, sorry. So it's, my time is up. My time is up. I'm sorry, you can ask me questions. I wish I had an hour. I'll be able to tell you all sorts of stories because I'm a storyteller. I lecture at the Center for Petroleum Economics and Energy Law. I teach masters and PhD students. So, so that's also what I do beyond being a lawyer. What else do I do? Yeah, I'm a Man U, I'm a die-hard Man U fan. Die-hard. Like I go to UK, I go to Old Trafford. What else? Then I'm a lover of Christ. What else? I like cars. Yeah, I like cars. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my fellow ILFA alumni. Thank you very much. And there are a few things that I noted from what AYODELE said, apart from marrying right. I don't think I need to belabor that point of marrying right anymore. So, but it's important to be centered around God, whatever you do, to be centered around God, to never take anything for granted, even the small things. And then the first 5 years of your practice is so important in shaping your career. And it's also important that you never forget the first entrant principle, to do something different, to be the first person in, and also to make right decisions and to let many people, to get market recognition. Really, it's very important. And I think that point is something that even if you don't take anything away, to be able to take that away of letting your name be known for something. Whether it's fintech, there are a lot of things starting now. There's technology, there's sports law. There are a lot of things that even the big top tier law firms are not concentrating on. And that's where your market strategy is. So let's give a round of applause again for AYODELE. Thank you very much for that. That was really insightful. Thank you, and it was a very interesting session. So are we taking questions now or later? After. Okay, so we're going to be moving swiftly now to Honorable Justice Ahmed BASSI, and who is going to be taking the recitation?
Honorable Justice Paul Ahmed BASSI of the National Industrial Court will be taken by Ifeolu Akimade. Sorry, apologies. So before we move on, let me quickly introduce our host pastor. Our father is the partner of the Simmons Coopers and is our head in this church, Pastor Dakbo Akionshu. Please, let's welcome him.
Good evening, everyone. The profile of Honorable Justice Paul Ahmed BASSI. Honorable Justice Paul Ahmed BASSI was prior to his appointment to the NICN bench a chief legal officer with the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, where he had served for almost 12 years. He rose through the ranks at the ICPC to head a team of lawyers that specialized in high-profile matters and appellate matters. He had, to his credit, numerous successes at the various divisions of the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. His dedication was recognized by the conferment of several awards and letters of commendation from the ICPC's legal department and board. He has successfully prosecuted and secured numerous convictions on behalf of the Commission in various courts across Nigeria. Honorable Justice BASSI holds a Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of Maiduguri and attended the Nigerian Law School from 1999 to 2000. Upon his call to the bar in October 2000, Justice BASSI undertook the compulsory one-year youth service at the Securities and Exchange Commission, Legal and Secretarial Department. From there, he proceeded to the law firm of Oluwole Akanle and Co. and rose to head its Abuja office before moving to the ICPC in the year 2005. He is a member of the International Association of Prosecutors as well as the Unity Bar Abuja. He has attended courses in the United Arab Emirates and the Russian Federation and numerous others organized by the DFID's Justice for All Program and the United States of America's Federal Bureau of Investigation. Justice BASSI has also attended at different times the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. He was a part of the team that served as legal consultant to the House of Representatives on the drafting of Watershed Pension Reform Act of 2004. He was also a leading member of the legal consultant to the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria on the first build, operate and transfer agreement with Bicompany Services Limited for the construction of the Muritala Mohammed Airport Terminal 2 in Lagos. Justice BASSI was born in July 1975 and is happily married with 3 children. Can I be welcome Honorable Justice Paul Ahmed BASSI.
Thank you very much. With your kind permission, my Lord, I prefer to sit. Now, let me start. Before I start off, there are a few comments I want to pass regarding what Mr. Dele Ayodele just said. I think I'm a bigger Man United fan. I think I like cars a lot more than he does, and because I've had every car there is possible, and I still do buy cars, and I'm married right too. And moving on to that issue you said about sex having an effect on your life, there was a time there were stories going on about destinies being stolen. Now my oddly is called destiny. So every morning when I come out of the house and he's by the vehicle opening the door, I'm like, destiny, they never thief you. So he said, no, okay, they know if you thief me. I said, that's reassuring. Now, it might seem to be a silly question, but you've got to ask yourself first, what do you want to do with your lives? Yes, you're all here. You want to become lawyers, and God willing, you'll be lawyers in a few weeks, right? But then after law school, what kind of lawyer do you want to be? What do you want to be? I mean, yes, the law is so diverse, you could go into so many different things, correct? But you've got to sit down and ask yourself, what do I want to do with my life after law school? What kind of law do I want to practice? And then when you finally arrive at that decision as to what you want to do, take it to God. Do not make a decision and ask God to endorse the decision, but leave the choice to God, and then God will give you the best. Now, I learned that from my mother when I was about to get married. I am Protestant. My wife is Catholic. And you can imagine the kind of war that transpired. What church were you going to get married to? What's going to happen to the kids? Blah, blah, blah. It was tumultuous. But we knew what we wanted. Eventually, we wore everybody down. And they finally gave up on us. And then said, let them marry Jerry. And now we've been married for 13 years. We've got 3 kids. And we can't be happier. Now, so I didn't make a decision that I wanted to marry her and ask God to endorse it. Like my mother said, leave the choice to him. So we left the choice and God eventually made it happen. So similar thing, there are courses that I'm sure that you guys like and some you may not particularly like. Is that correct? Now, for those that you may not particularly like, could end up being what will change your life. I wasn't a fan of labor law. It was an easy an elective back in the university. The lecturer was very generous. So of course, to boost your GPA, you will pick labor law. And now here I am, a judge sitting over labor matters, and it was an elective. The Bible says God knew and knew all your days even before there was one of them, right? God knew why I picked labor law. That was a watershed moment to where I am right now. And that led to the fulfillment of a dream not for me, but for my mother. Yes, my mother was called to the bar in 1980 alongside my mother-in-law. Yes, we come from a family of lawyers. Yes, my mother-in-law happens to be my Lord Justice Obaseki's colleague at the Court of Appeal now. My mother is 72 and retired and playing with her grandkids in Abuja. She's got 15. Right. Now, when you have 5 children, you should expect to have 15 grandkids. So, now, my mother was a magistrate way back in Borno State. And yes, I'm not Calabar, I'm from Borno. My BASSI is spelled with an I, B-A-S-S-I. Now, so my mother had 2 colleagues. 3 of them were called to the bar at the same time. And when it was time to make them judges, the 2 men were elevated, and then she was made director of High Court, and she got upset. So she left the Borno State Judiciary and she moved on to better things. Now, one time while I was with the ICPC, I was coming to Lagos here to attend an interview. I believe either with Total or with MTN. It was an incredible offer. I was on my way to the airport, and then my mother called me and said, "Paul, please don't take the offer no matter what they offer you." And I was like, this woman has come. She said, "I never became a judge, but I want you to become a judge." So I came to Lagos, I aced the interview, and when I got back, my boss at ICPC said, "Don't go there, you're going to make money, but then you've worked hard so far, and then what's going to happen afterwards? Do you want to come back to practice again? Don't do this." My mother-in-law also told me, "Don't do this." So I was like, okay. Eventually, when the call came in, I didn't take it. I thought I was going to regret it, but here I am today. At least my mother lived long enough, and she's still alive, to see her son being the judge that she never was. So I left the trust to him and see where I am right now. Now, coming back to you, because this is about you. Once you decide that as to what you want to do, right, and you've prayed about it, go into it and give your best. First of all, with the law school bar exams, you've always passed your exams. That is why you're here, right? The bar exam isn't any different. You will pass it, and you will pass it well. So go into the bar exams, the bar finals, with the same attitude that Shane and Mina have always passed, nothing. You get? It's okay to be a bit arrogant, maybe confident. There's a fine line between arrogant and confident. So just stay on that line. After all, it's you, you would always pass. That is me. I believe there's nothing I can't do, right? So that's me. So now, once you're able to ace the bar, once you ace the bar exams, which I know you would, you go into the world. Remain true to God, who has been faithful to you to this day. Do not be all righteous and pious now for the purposes of passing the bar exams. God cannot be fooled. And then later you go back to being naughty. Right? Be consistent. God is faithful. He knows everything. He cares for you. And you know what his thoughts towards you are, right? Now, once you start, Mr. AYODELE has said a lot about what you do in practice, right? But I want to tell you a rather short, well, I promised God I was going to tell everybody I meet this story so that you will learn from my mistake. I wanted to go to the Federal High Court first. The then CJ was related to me. My mother-in-law are quite close, are very close. Sometimes my wife gets a little angry because I've got 6 wives. My wife, number 1. My mom, who is a widow, number 2. My mother-in-law, who is divorced, number 3. I have to be a husband to all 3. and I've got 3 beautiful girls. I have to show them what to expect from a husband, right? And I have to fill in the gap for my mother and my mother-in-law. So you see, I've got 6 wives. So I've got a lot of juggling to do. Now, my mother went to see the former CJ of the Federal High Court. He made all manner of promises. My mother-in-law went to see him. He made all manner of promises. I felt it wasn't enough. We went to see everybody to see in Nigeria because I wanted to get appointed to the Federal High Court bench. And alas, I didn't make it. I wasn't appointed. And I was really upset. So one time I went to see my mother-in-law in Ibadan, and then we talked. And she was like, let's forget Njare, let's try and make son. I tried, of course. The former head of the ICPC, who was my really good friend, decided that no, those people in the ministry will not allow you. You're a small boy. Calm down first. So then the appointment process for the NIC. You know what the NIC is, right? You have studied all about it in school, right? You know you've got to, apart from being just a judge, you've got to be, yes, you know it, I know, right? Now, God will raise helpers for you in your times of need. This is my story. Not because Justice Obaseki is here. I said I made a promise to God that I was going to tell everybody I meet this story, so that you will learn that man will not do it for you, and God will never share his glory with anyone, right? And God will raise helpers for you from places where you least expect. This is what I pray for all of you, right? Now, the NSC opportunity came up. I didn't want to apply. I was too upset because everybody kept asking me, but you're that good, why didn't you make the Federal High Court? I got tired of answering questions. So my mother-in-law said, Paul, try. I said I wasn't going to. She went round, got the recommendations for me. I reluctantly went to 1 or 2 people who got recommendations. I said, let it not be like I'm doing shakara. I got the recommendations. I submitted my CV. It was assessed. They said submit your decisions. I submitted a stack because I worked really hard, because I believed, first and foremost, while outside the ICPC, is do your best and then the cream will always rise to the top, right? A friend of mine, I recall one time he saw me typing stuff on my laptop, and then he asked me, I don't know if you speak Hausa here, but he said in Hausa, isn't that your laptop? I said yes. And you're using it for government work? I said yes. He said, why? I said, because of the deadlines. He said, so? I was like, no, I need to do that. Then he said, Kewawa Nifa. Meaning, you are stupid or something. But at the end of the day, when they wanted to appoint team leaders, when some people left, when Paul was picked, they started all manner of stories. Oh, Paul is the madam's favorite. Oh, Paul knows the chairman, that's why, blah, blah. But long story short, back to the appointment process, right? The appointment process, so we went through it. I submitted stuff. As it turned out, there were people that were way more senior, from my state and stuff. But it so happened that the NIC is the kind of place that, okay, let merit rule. If you qualify, you qualify. There were consultants appointed. They assessed everything. After the assessment, we were asked to write a test. I was way out in front of all the older people and stuff. We went before the FJSC. Now, the head of the panel, people that were coming out after the FJSC interview were all like, wow, that's a really tough panel. So, shortly before it was our turn, they adjourned till the next morning. And it was my friend who was part of the last batch. So she came out, she was like, better go and study this and that too. You see? So I went back home. When I went in the next morning, they were so nice to me. I was surprised. I said, oh, I thought they said they were cantankerous old men and women. So why they been so nice? I asked the FGSC, went to the NJC, and of course, there was an interview there. I still came first. And then the NJC in plenary had to sit and make a decision because there were so many interests. And typical of my president was like, these people passed, tick. NJC at plenary start. And then when it came to my turn, the CGO of my state had an issue with me. I didn't know this. Now, why am I telling you this? Which is most important? We learned from the Federal High Court story, right? And we were determined not to speak to anybody at all concerning NIC. I used to pray every day and say, God, if it is your will for me, and if it is good for me, send me there. But if it is not your will for me, or if it's not good for me, show me what you want to have me do. That was all I prayed, right? Now, I had never fasted dry. Who has done dry fasting here? Maybe him. I had never done dry fasting in my life. My mother-in-law and my mom told me that let's do dry fasting for 3 days. I said, hey, me. But then when you consider that they're already established and set, and they're doing it for you, why wouldn't you do it? Right? So I said, okay, let me try you. So of course I tried to do the dry fasting. I tried. When the issue came up, I got a call after NJC sat from one of our judges congratulating me. I didn't want to believe him because I didn't want to get my hopes high. Then someone from the NJC called my mother-in-law and told her that, is that BASSI your son-in-law? He said, yes, okay, he made it. So that's when I believed. But the crux of it was that my CG had an objection to my candidature. He said, no, my zone had all the judges from Borno. And I was really young and blah, 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 and were marginalizing other people. The former CGN, I'd only met him in court. I'd only seen him in court. I only appeared before him. He said, but this man has an A and your other candidate has a B. Do you want to substitute B for A? So everybody else said no. Now, when they came up with this, someone there told me that, started calling me B for A. I didn't understand till when they told me the story. So lo and behold, here I am right now, right? Because of one prayer. Do you know that prayer? God, send me there if it is good for me and if it is your will for me. If not, show me what you have me do. When you're done with law school, pray that prayer and then remain faithful because he will answer your prayers. So I made a promise to God that I will not change after becoming a judge. I still introduce myself as Paul. I think Madam would attest to that. I try to remain faithful to God. I try to do what I should do when I should do. Every day I tell God that if I would do wrong today, let me not sit on that day. Let something come up. Every day before they hit and they go, you know, the usual boom, 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 I say Psalm 121. For me, that's my personal prayer because lives are at stake, right? Well, at least. So that essentially is my story, and you would have your own story, right? Some of you, I never thought I was going to prosecute. I liked criminal law. I never thought I was going to prosecute. It hurt me a lot sending people to prison. But then after a while, I got immune. I didn't care any longer. But then it taught me not to believe anyone. Anything you say, I disbelieve you. You have to prove yourself to me first that you're not lying. I stopped believing people, and it's spilled over into my relationship with people. You'll be talking now like, I've seen criminals. I've seen smart criminals. I've seen really smart criminals, right? So I never thought I was going to prosecute. I got used to it. I loved it. Sometimes I miss it because there are so many criminals in Nigeria. And now I really love what I do. And I have a prayer that, God, I just turned 44 2 weeks ago, and I'm saying, I want to go all the way, if it is His will for me, right? So believe in God, remain true, leave the choice to Him, and then the sky wouldn't even be your limit, it will be a starting stone. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Justice BASSI. We really appreciate that. And just to summarize what he said, it's important for you to ask yourself the question, Hello? Yeah. So it's important for you to ask yourself the question that, what do you want to do with your life? It's important to first ask yourself and determine, and also to take your decisions to God, to take your life to God and submit to His will, and not for Him to endorse whatever decision that you have made. It's for you to ask that what is the will of God for your life, and to be in alignment with that will of God. And it's also very important that you remain true and consistent to that will of God, to not just use God as, oh, let me quickly pass my exam and get a good job, and then from there I can settle it on my own. You know, one thing that we've come to find out in life is that you always need God all the way. You're the one who loses if you go out, because you might think that, okay, after God answers this, then I don't need Him. Everything else I can always try. But you always realize that He will take you back to that place. So, and hard work cannot be overemphasized. We cannot, and I think Ayodele Oni also made that same point. It's important to persevere. It's important to have grit. It's important to be consistent with your work. It's important to do good work. And your work would always speak for you. So thank you. A round of applause again for Honorable Justice Ahmed Paul BASSI. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. So roundabout now, when he was speaking, another of the speakers came in that Benga is just going to introduce right now.
So we have in our midst Mr. Charles AJIBOYE. Can we please give him a round of applause? Thank you, please.
Yes. Just to usher you onto the high table. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for taking out of your time on a Sunday.
He's the Publicity Secretary of the Ikeja branch of the MBA, and is the executive partner of the CREST partnership, if I'm right.
Okay. Okay, so now I think that we're going to have the interactive session, which is going to be taken by Milord of our own. Thank you. Round of applause, please.
I hope you are enjoying yourselves and you are taking down notes. Don't just look at him like Standard Bank. Make sure you are writing, because one day you would have cause to refer to these notes. So the floor is open. Do you have questions? We want to take them in twos so that you don't forget the question. Any questions for, yes? Who's your question for? Dr. Ayodele, yes. Any more questions for Dr. Ayodele? No, we just, yes, together. Yes. Dr. Ayodele. Please let me have your hands up if you have any question for Dr. Ayodele. Dr. Ayodele, you can, or you want us to give you something to quickly write it down? Okay. All right then, number one, yes? Does she have a mic?
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Yeah. Your name, please, yes?
My name is Esmeralda. You made mention of beginning with litigation in the first 5 years of your practice. I've heard people talk about that. They say it's always a good foundation to start with litigation. But I don't understand why. Say, for instance, I have my mind set up on a certain area. I think that I'll do better in that area. Why do I not just begin there rather than beginning with litigation?
I can answer right away, but okay.
Okay, I think we will take all the questions together. Doctor, you can just jot it down and we'll take it all together.
Hello. Yeah, good evening. My name is Ogogo Okweha, and my question borders on marine right. So, I mean, I don't think he really shed a lot of light on it. I'd like to know.
Did you get the, I don't think that was really a question. Well, okay.
So, sorry, sir, please, I wanted to ask, because you didn't really say much on, should I say, the steps of what you need to consider in getting married rightly. So if you would
I'd really appreciate. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sure you got that question. Any more question for Dr. Ayodele Oni, please? Okay.
My name is Ifelo Akimade. Yes, I would like to ask that what's your advice for a young lawyer that has his eyes set on maybe a particular area of law, let's say oil and gas, for example? How can one gain the expertise we talk about in the space of that 5 years? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shada Oluwatosin. I just wanted to ask concerning what he asked, but mine is that you particularly want to have an area on expertise or something. How do you go about developing yourself? What are the first few steps to take concerning that in trying to get recognition in a certain area? Thank you.
Okay, that's all. Yes, you can proceed.
Okay, I'll answer the first question, and if any
Just
of my...
before you
okay.
begin, the question on marrying right. You see, a lot of them, they are yet to take that step. And some of them, they are in the middle of taking that step. So they don't want to miss it. And they want to know, inverted commas, who is right? Is that not the question?
I'm sure I can't give a perfect answer, so I'll let my seniors here and colleagues also contribute. Right. But I'll answer the questions I can answer more easily. Okay, first 5 years specialize. To be honest, I think you'll be doing yourself a disservice if you specialize from your year one. Why? I'll give you a scenario. So they bring a transaction. Imagine I know only power. I call myself a power lawyer. So they bring a restructuring of a power company to me. Recall, because it's a power company, people expect that I know it. But really, it's corporate commercial. So I know section something of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act says this, section this, regulation this, but I do not know the Companies and Allied Matters Act well. I do not know issues around restructuring, around taxation, around commercial law. I'll be able to do that transaction. I've had situations where I've hired people who have expertise in one area because they specialize so early, they don't know anything else. But you would hardly ever find an area of the law that is restricted to that area of the law. So you are doing a divestment. You probably need to look at issues around competition, SEC. You know there's the Federal Competition Commission now. You need to look at those issues. Imagine I know nothing about that. I know nothing about mergers. We did mergers in law school. I don't know if you did it. Yeah, I don't know anything about those. I don't know what KAMA says. You won't be able to do that transaction. So you're doing yourself a disservice. My view, and I think the better option is to be very well-rounded and then subsequently, say from your year 4, year 5, whatever, start to specialize. Because then you know every area of the law. Because a good energy lawyer is a lawyer who understands the nuances of different areas of the law as they apply to energy law. It's not someone who just knows the Petroleum Act and knows the Electric Power Sector Reform Act and knows the over 50 or 60 regulations in the oil and gas industry, but cannot do anything else. So I think it's a problem, and I don't recommend that you start specializing in year one. You can have more interest, but it's good to be rounded to know everything. And I said litigation because critical reasoning. See, so the way I understand litigation, or the way I did understand it when I did it, was to contemplate what the other party might be thinking and find arguments to counter those ahead of time. So if you do litigation in your first few years, your first year, maybe I did only my first year, the second year, a few years later, I got a job. Sorry, I can gist, no vex. I got a job in a law firm, and they insisted I'll do litigation. But because I already had expertise, I was in my fifth, sixth year, I can't remember, that I had to do litigation. Some people, because I make mouth somehow. So I told them when I got in that, I hear you guys do rotation here. Me, I'm doing only my energy. I'm not rotating. So they had gone behind, because I got to know later, to meet one of the litigation partners, who is a really, really senior lawyer now. Really, really senior. I'm sure everybody else here does know. I wouldn't say whether it's a she or he, because he would know who it is. And then he or she then called me that I was going to court next day, and they had set me up magistrate court files. I said, look at these jokers. I just said, you know what, I just went to meet my supervising partner that I was going to resign. And I meant it, because the other firm I left were still talking to me to come back. they were going to give me more money promoting, but I really didn't want to go. But that was a bargaining tool for me, and I didn't do litigation. But it was important. My first year I did do litigation a lot, maybe my first 2 years, because it helps your critical analysis. That's the truth. That's what I think. I mean, I can't say I know it all, but that's my own view. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything to that.
Imagine you qualify as a lawyer and then you never step into the courtroom. So what's the point? You only know theory. No law book would teach you how to stand before a judge. No law book would teach you how to raise objections. No law book will teach you how to respond to objections. No law book will teach you how to think on your feet, right? No law book will teach you how to face a cantankerous judge that's tired and hungry and it's 4 o'clock, he wants to go home. I met a lot during my days in practice, honestly. And like Mr. AYODELE said, that is what you would face, right? You would need most of the successes you record in court happens before you go into court. Understand that. You prepare not only your case, but you prepare for the opponent's case, your adversary's case. What would he say if I were in his shoes? Do you understand? And then you prepare for the responses. So when you anticipate, you do that. Like you said, critical reasoning, and then it grows your confidence. And then let's say something happens within your family, there's a land matter or there's something, and then say, that our child is a lawyer, let's go to him. And then you can't go to court because you've never been to court, right? So first of all, it's like the doctors. Learn the general practice first, and then pick what really perks your interest. And this is really important because you could end up doing it for the rest of your days. Make sure it's something you enjoy. Enjoy what you do, and then you'll be happy doing it, okay? Mr. AYODELE has not taken the part about the marine rights, so I'll let him start off first. Although I think I'm a little old in the institution, I'm assuming here. Now, what does marine right entail? I know this is not my question, but since it was directed at Mr. AYODELE, I'm pulling rank. Now, it's a very, very serious decision that would affect the rest of your life. You do not marry because her father is a governor. You do not marry because his father is a minister. You marry a person that when you young people in love, you say, completes me, Abi. Everybody is the love of my life. And then you meet the next person, is the love of my life. No. Why did I marry my wife? I was dating someone extremely pretty. I'm not going to say if she's prettier than my wife, but extremely pretty. I can't say that now. I can't say that. I'm going to go back home today now. She's here. Now, but then there were two things who were back then in Abuja. This really pretty girl didn't want any other ice cream except it was Blue Bunny. That, yes, Blue Bunny ice cream way back in about 1998, 99, or maybe about 2000 sharp, right? Was about 400 naira or so. There was fun ice cream for about 150 naira. This girl said, God forbid. That is water and milk and sugar. It's Nigerian. And her parents were neither here nor there. Oh. My wife lives in Azokoro, in Abuja, would get up in the morning and go to Wuse Market and do the shopping before going back to have a bath, and she was comfortable with fine ice. And then I noticed she was comfortable going to, honestly, I tell everyone this, buying Bendan boutique. Yes, in Wuse Market way back then, this is a true story. Wuse Market, if you go to the car park, it was full of people selling second-hand clothes. And yes, we would go to the boutiques. And now we shop in America, we shop in France, we shop everywhere after we got married. That is our own money. But then I saw one thing. She knew how to handle a situation where we will not have. She could make do with bend down, and she could shop in the best boutiques in Abuja. Right? Know somebody who will always meet you halfway, who will not leave you because you don't have, who is comfortable with either way, is for better, for worse, right? That is one. Marry somebody who will always respect you, no matter what. If you have a problem, you keep it inside the house. Outside, you will not tell anyone. Do you understand? Even if I annoy her till what? But once we are, and I annoy her a lot, once we're outside, everything is fine. She's holding my hand like you can see them doing love now. Right? She's always doing that. And honestly, when I saw them, it reminded me of my wife. Honestly, I was like, God. And we still do it. We've been together since 2000 or so, and we've never spent a month apart. No matter what, no matter where I was, I'll come back to her, or she'll come back to me. As in, apart, we're not seeing each other, not breaking up. You understand? As in, I've never gone 3 weeks without seeing my wife. It's impossible. Right? Sometimes, well, bottom line. Now, bottom line, you have to know someone who would be comfortable with the economics of our times, whether you have or you don't have, that will respect you. And then another thing that's important is in-law politics. What does in-law politics mean? You would understand as you grow older, right? When you marry, you see Madame here, her first duty is to make his parents her parents, and then vice versa. Do you understand? If my mom wants something, sometimes my mom will call me and say, thank you, blah, blah, blah. I'll be wondering what. Apparently my wife would have sent something to her, right? She adopted my mom as her mom because she saw her mom and I were really tight. Now you understand that. And then half the time, for the men now, it's the woman that's with the kids. You need to have a good woman that will imbibe the words of Christ and will lead them into the right way. I'm Protestant, like I keep saying, and she's Catholic. And you would never tell that there's any difference. We're comfortable going to the Catholic church. We're comfortable going to House on the Rock, my church. We're comfortable going anywhere. And the kids, every day, she teaches them how to do stuff. So bottom line, pick somebody who would help you in your walk with God. And one of the most important things, every day, like Mr. AYODELE, I was buying new cars. I'll buy 3-4 cars a year. Right. I would buy, make it look really nice, and then you will make me an offer, I can't refuse, and I'll sell it, and then I'll buy another one. My wife said, this one that you're doing, we don't have a house. We have a house of our own in Abuja only because of my wife. You need a partner like that, that's supportive. If you are going to be that kind of wife, then you're ready to marry. That will tell your husband, it's not all about going to Oxford Street. What are we doing as per our own house? Are we going to pay rent forever? You need a husband who will protect you no matter what and will respect you. And if you are not ready to take care of your wife, don't marry. That's the first thing that will lead to disrespect. My Oga tells me, and don't borrow from your wife, like he told me the last time we said, don't borrow from your wife without paying back. Pay back if you borrow. And that she will borrow and she will not pay back. And that's what they would come and tell you, that when you say, but I've paid, they say, no, that one that you paid, that part you paid, she be say that one is dash. So you still have outstanding. That's what my Oga told me. So respect your wife. If you're not willing to cater, respect, and love your wife, don't marry. If you're not willing to be a supportive partner, to complement your husband, not to see your husband as a rival, don't marry. Okay? Let your husband and let your wife be able to say that this person has been a blessing to me, as I'm saying, as they are saying, as we're all saying. Then you'll be ready to marry. That is what it means to marry right. Not about the looks. Looks will fade. Not about the position. They can sack ministers. Dalong is no longer minister. You don't want to say former. No, it's not about former now. You understand? It's not about the position, but about the person. So look at the person. If this person, if you can stand this person for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and you can still love that person as much as you did on the first day, as I do my wife, then marry her.
I mean, even I have learned a lot from that. I like to be controversial, so that's why I brought that up. But they're factual also. If you go check those lawyers, and I can mention some of them. Yeah, I might get into trouble. Benga or anybody. BT Adeniji, even our darling VP, can't find out who his wife is. This is partner in Alex. At least there are about 10 partners that I know, leading lawyers. If you just check who their wives are. But fantastic. Fundamental issues need to, you need to agree on fundamental issues. So you can't have on very fundamental issues varying views. It's a recipe for catastrophe. So that's true. So those issues he said are fundamental issues. Very fundamental. Or else you could get married to the
and she's mates with Mr. AYODELE. They were called the same year.
Oh, interestingly. Yeah, I probably know her though. Yeah, so there are fundamental issues, and that's true. I'm not going to deal with the fundamentals because he's closed it out, to be honest. Because they're fundamental, and I was remembering my wife some of the things he was saying. Because there was time I went to the US, I went to New York. I buy my cars myself. I just like to do that. And she didn't say much, but I just realized accountants changed when she saw me bring out that sort of money from my card. So we were on our way back, and I like to travel with my wife a lot. If out of every 5 trips, we probably go 3 together. You know what? As we're going home now, that Lekki house I saw in that estate, we are going to buy it. We're not negotiating, or else this car doesn't sleep in our house. And today we have, we had one or two before then, but she just thought your liabilities, because a car is a liability. It doesn't bring you money, except you use it for Uber, maybe. It doesn't bring you money, but takes money from you. So she says, you know what? Our net assets cannot be negative. So we are buying another house and we're starting another business. So, at the end of the day, once my wife puts a gun to my head, I usually will do it. Put a gun in the sense that she'll continue until I do it. I will not have peace. But it's for my own good. So even when I want to negotiate stuff, I just push my wife forward, because I know she's the one who's going to bring the prices down. So yeah, everything he said is true. And I'm sure they have the same experience. But the icing I think of would be when there are 2 choices. And maybe everything else is fundamentally similar. And there are 2 choices. He had 2 choices, he made 1. So if he had a choice of plus X and I have a choice of no X, I'll probably go for the plus X. And I'm sure you understand what I mean. And I'm sure the gentleman here and lady here also understand what I mean. So that's the addition I'm bringing to it. So I'm not going to, there's nothing he said that I can contradict, because I think they are fundamental truths. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, on getting expertise.
Yes.
I think I would want him to give us your thoughts. Yeah, she said advice on getting expertise, because he's way more brilliant than I am. It would be nice to get
on the question of gaining expertise, I think that a lot of what has been said already would apply just as well. Expertise will not be gained if you are not putting in the effort. And expertise will not be gained in the comfort of a bedroom. Expertise, by definition, will be gained when there is concrete, deliberate, if you like, desperate attempt at it. But there are a lot of questions that still sit at the balance about whether you go get some certifications, for instance, or whether you put in the work, the experience, and how do you gain expertise in that light? What are the steps, the practical steps to take? I've always thought personally that additional education is good as a signaling tool. Signaling tool in the sense that something is seen on your resume, and without the person meeting you, the person makes an impression of who you are and the sort of skills that perhaps you have coming with you. So the sort of certifications and additional education you will need, of course, will be sector specific. But I would always caution that you don't run into the first thing that is just making waves out there. There are so many things you would see out there. A lot of certifications, a lot of programs. I think you have to be careful and you have to be strategic about this. Your additional education or certification will be of value if it works as an effective signaling tool. If it doesn't, then adding it behind your CV is just one other thing, and it just doesn't take you anywhere. So that's it with certification. I would always think that you try to get a foot into the door and sit on the table. And what that will almost invariably mean is a lot of hard work, a lot of effort. Again, I would say, look for somebody there who is doing what you want, what you aspire to. And you can try to shadow the person. You can try to learn from the person. Sometimes it may mean that you reach out to the person directly and say, look, I'm very interested in this field. I want to break in. What do you advise? Other times, you may simply look at the person's life without reaching out to the person and try to see what the person has done or is doing in that particular area. So I'm not sure that there will be a specific, straightforward answer to the question, but certification, good, it's an effective signaling tool. Work and experience, always, it's just what it is. Experience will always be king and to always count. Shadowing / mentoring / asking questions would always, again, get in the right direction. Of course, all these things you're doing bearing in mind the specific area that you're looking at. I hope that answers the question.
Well, I think we've come to the end of this particular section. We're taking 2 more, but remember, who you marry matters. It either takes you down or it takes you. We'll call on Mr. Albert now to take the next 2.
To Reginald AZIZA, who is going to be taking us on the next session. And to take his recitation is Okeke Albert.
Another round of applause if you've been enjoying the program. I want to welcome you again to After Law School, What Next? My name is Albert, and I've been given a singular honor an honor I'm going to release, yes, to introduce someone whose story is inspiring. Not in the all kind of way, but in the oh kind of way, because his story is fused with effort and application of rules and all, as you would soon hear. So Reginald AYODELE AZIZA is a triple first-class lawyer. I thought that would go with an applause. Having made first-class law degrees from the Obafemi Awolowo University, the Nigerian Law School, and the University of Cambridge. He has over 25 academic awards, including the Faculty of Law Prize for the Best Student in the Faculty of Law, OAU, the Mohammed Bello Prize for the second best student at the Nigerian Law School, and the Wolfson College Jennings Prize for a distinction on the Master of Corporate Law in Cambridge. Reginald AZIZA is currently taking his PhD in Securities Regulation at the University of Oxford, Oxfordshire. While presently working as an in-house counsel with Chevron, and having over 6 years experience working in top commercial law firms in Lagos, London, and Paris. Mr. Reginald AZIZA is a founder of Reginald AZIZA Leadership in Law Scholarship Award, a foundation he founded in February 2017. He is a formal and informal mentor to scores of young Africans and students looking to get a head start in an incredibly competitive environment. Please, a round of applause for Mr. Reginald AZIZA.
And is happily married to Kehinde AZIZA. She deserves a round of applause too.
My Lord Honorable Justice Obaseki Adejumo, my Lord Honorable Justice BASSI, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the pastor and the pastoral team of this congregation, aspirants to the bar. It is a pleasure to be here today, and I thank you very much for the honor and the opportunity to come here to speak to you about this topic, which I know is burning in a lot of our hearts. Fortunately, Honorable Justice BASSI and Dr. Oni have said almost everything I had to say. So I don't think I'll be speaking as much as I ordinarily would have. But thank you very much. It gives me great pleasure to come here and to speak with you and to share stories about the few things that I've done so far and how some of those things can drop lessons that perhaps some of you can listen to and hopefully pick one or two things from. When my citation was being read, it felt surreal because of course some years ago I was sitting on the other side and of course I listened to people talk as well, and I know how it touched me when I see somebody or the exam about to take and the person apparently went there and did marginally well in it, and then from there he's gone on to do a few other things. So thank you very much for coming out here, and we'll try to have a discussion. So I'll start off by just discussing in very short outline my story so far. And then in the course of that, I'll be bringing out lessons that will form the core of my message to you today. But I'll put out that message first of all. There are three things that three messages I want to put out to you all today. First is that taking opportunities will always be key. Secondly, and this is a point that has been made consistently in the course of the evening, hard work and, if you like, a desperate sense of effort is always important. And thirdly, the recognition that the world has simply changed. The world that some of us, that most definitely the older people saw, is certainly not the same world that you're experiencing right now. And how that influences the career decisions you take in a few months' time after your bar finals may be critical to what happens on the other stages of your career. So, short story, my citation perhaps says a lot about the journey so far. But I studied law in Ife. I finished in Ife and then went to the Nigerian Law School. I was in the Yenegua campus. Start out there, very quiet. I didn't want any attention, no drama, nothing, just quiet and peaceful. And then finished from the law school, went into Olanu Ajayi. I did my NYS with Olanu Ajayi. I was in the specialized transactions practice group of the firm at the time, and then went into dispute resolution. During the course of that, I had an offer to take the Master of Corporate Law program in Cambridge. And it was part funded by Herbert Smith Freehills LLP in London. So I took up the offer, went into Cambridge. Fortunately, came out with good results there as well. And then these people who had funded me decided to open up conversations with me. I mean, you're done with your master's program now. Perhaps let's have a conversation. Let's see where things go. So they offered me a 12-month contract with them. So I was with them in London doing high court litigation, and arbitration during the period. At the twilight of my stay in London, I thought I was coming back into Nigeria. And I should add that within that, I attended the conference where I met my wife here, it was a very chance meeting. Of course, I'd come in from London for this conference and walked into the venue in Eco Hotel, and there she was, and we talk about. Actually, she's blushing right now, but I mean, it's how it happened. That's a separate story. But I married right, exactly, yes. But at the twilight of my stay in London, I got in conversations with a law firm in Paris, and got into a conversation with the London office of the firm, but then the discussion went to the Paris office. So I returned into Nigeria. I rejoined Olanu Ajayi, but before I did, these two other things that happened. I'd applied for a doctorate program, one, and two, this law firm in Paris wanted me to come over to do investor state disputes, investor state arbitration with them in Paris. So I rejoined the Lanois Ajayi very briefly, went to Paris. I resumed work on Wednesday, the 15th of March, 2017. On Friday, the 17th, a letter came in from Oxford offering me admission for the doctoral program, and then funding came from somewhere, and I went in there, and I was doing that when, again, opportunities opened themselves up in Chevron, and returned to the country. So I'm still doing my doctorate, just converted to a part-time program, and right now, as we will get to when I speak about hard work, it can be a very grueling experience. But you see, through this thread, the first message I want to pass across can perhaps be seen. Opportunity. As my Lord Justice BASSI said, it is always good if you know where exactly you want to be. And you ask yourself that question very carefully at this stage where you are. Unfortunately, I didn't. And I'm the very first lawyer in my family. And at the time, I didn't have anybody to guide me through. So I kept on touching on different things. And so it was from project finance in Lanois Ajayi to a specialized corporate law program in Cambridge to commercial litigation and arbitration in London to investor state arbitration in Paris to securities regulation in Oxford and now to oil and gas back in Nigeria. In this entire thread, there's always been that thing coming up. It is my offer in my admission, for instance, that came with a scholarship from this law firm, gave me the chance to do this thing in London, the 12-month stint I had with them. And afterwards, getting in there, you have a foot perhaps into the door in a place like Oxford, and then in the course of that, I've done some work for Chevron. So in my interviews back in Chevron, it was easy to say, in this particular matter that we did for you, and you know I was talking from a place of knowledge. But opportunities will always open themselves up. And these opportunities oftentimes are not always very visible to us. So sometimes you have to put yourself out there, and you have to dive in. And something along the line happens. And like Dr. Oni, doctor, I shouldn't call him minister, because it takes a lot of efforts to get that. Like Dr. Oni has said, and like my Honorable Justice BASSI has said as well, God always sits by somewhere. And he's poking you in a particular direction at every point in time. And these things come to you as opportunities, and you have to be careful, and you have to be prayerful in identifying them. And when they come, you have to grab them with both hands. And these opportunities, of course, will differ depending on the circumstances, on the person, on your exposure at the time, on the people you have around you. But always keep an eye out for opportunity. The world that we are in right now is a place where things come at you that you may perhaps not have foreseen at the time you started your journey. So if you listen to his story, for instance, he said his life had changed fundamentally from writing a book on the power industry. Where did that idea come from? I am doing a dissertation in Canada, and I can't lay hold on a single text on this subject. So what am I going to do about it? I could either brood about it, or I could see an opportunity. Now that's an example of an opportunity opening up in the most unlikely situation. But being able to identify and to key into opportunities would always stand you apart. Second thing is work. See, oftentimes, I'm a very ardent advocate of academic brilliance and academic excellence. I've written about it a couple of times. I've always tried to push out that message. But I'm an equally ardent advocate of old-fashioned, bury your head down hard work. Hard work oftentimes is the difference between a talented person just not getting out there to the very top and somebody who is not as talented and performing exceedingly well. So just as I said about certifications, I would say the same thing about your credentials. Like Dr. Oni mentioned, it gets you a foot into the door. It, for me, acts as a signaling tool. If I put out a CV out there, I'm pretty confident that I will get at least a callback. But that is it. It signals something. That says nothing about what happens when you are in fact there. And sometimes we like to see the finished products, and we like to see, the finished product comes out and it's really nice, and sometimes we don't see the effort that goes on behind the scenes. But just a quick story. When I was just fresh out of law school, I went to the place a family friend gave me a boys' quarters in Agungi. And my office was in Olano Ajayi, Banana Island, right? And this was my test of how big the house, of how big that place was. It was this. Can I touch with my standing? Right? That was the first place I stayed in Lagos. And then oftentimes going into work, and I get to Agungi bus stop there. I want to get into Banana Island, but there is no bus, of course, no Uber. We didn't have that luxury. But you need to get a bus going to Falomo to then take a drop into Banana Island. And sometimes you stand out there and all you hear is Obalende CMS, Obalende Boarding Camp and all that, CMS. And so it got to a point in my life where the easiest thing to do was to take the first bus that gets to me, get down to law school bus stop, and walk down Falomo Bridge. And this was easy. It was normal stuff. Laptop bag in my back, earphones in my ears, doing all that and thinking about my life on the journey, right? But of course, these are not stories, and the first time I told my wife that, she cracked up because these can perhaps be strange experiences. But you see, even now, it turns out that the effort levels still just will not change. Because a PhD in Oxford is as difficult as it can get, right? Imagine that with a full-time job. I resume work at 7:30 in the morning. I'm often there till about 8 p.m. Right? I'm in-house, and I'm meant to be in-house where we are lounging, but simply not the case. And then I come back home, and I have a supervisor in Oxford who is literally a god of corporate law. And he is as demanding can be. And then laptop is up there in my study, and I'm pulling it through again until about 1 a.m. I go to bed, wake up 6 a.m. the next day, and it's like that, Sunday to Sunday, right around the clock, right? So the effort levels must always remain the same way that they are now when you're putting in the grind for your bar finals. Why is that the case, though? Let's try to explore that. You see, your competition today has changed fundamentally. And I need you to understand that. Your competition has changed fundamentally. Let's go back to the Bible. If you remember the story of the rich man and Lazarus, right? You had Jesus gave the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Rich man was lounging all along, and Lazarus, the poor man, who didn't have anything to eat, and then both died. Lazarus goes into heaven to the bosom of Abraham. Rich man is languishing, right? You see, Jesus was talking about then. In today's world, a flip side of the story, the rich student and Temitope, or the rich student and Chibuzo. The rich student is more likely than not to have studied in a better school, maybe abroad. Most likely because of that, he or she did not face the difficult lecturers you faced in Nigeria. He or she not face the lecturers who felt that they needed to mark you down. He or she most likely faced lecturers that wanted to refine the gold in the person. So most likely went to a better school, got better grades. In the course of that, of course, rich students, so parents can make calls and get the best of internships, the best of work experiences. The person has been groomed to be an effective communicator. You get into a meeting, you're speaking Yoruba English and Igbo English. The person is coasting all through. Queen's English, very prim and proper, right? Good education, good background. That is your competition today, unfortunately. And the fact that our public schools in Nigeria are what they are today means that you are more likely than not to face those people. In today's world, therefore, it is more important than it has simply ever been. That grind. There is nothing, you see, we will talk about the rich student and Temitope, but if Temitope is as desperate as somebody who has his back on the wall and simply refuses to give up, Temitope will get to the top. If Temitope is as desperate as somebody who has his back to the wall and simply refuses to give up, Temitope will get to the top. So your competition today forces you to put in that much more effort. And now, still on this theme about your competition and how that has changed the world, it can make you start reflecting on the sorts of opportunities opened to you. So when I'm sure my Lord started practicing law, they were restricted in sorts of things that they could get into. But in today's world, when I speak to a number of my mentees, what I hear is, Reginald, I want to get into technology, the tech space, startup space, talking about blockchain and big data analytics and all that. Fancy stuff, right? And of course, at the MBA conference coming up next month, there's a session on outer space law. And back then in the university, I had people who were actively pursuing potential careers in outer space law. These are places where, like has been said already to you today, there is not a lot of expertise in the market, and where technology and globalization unite to present you opportunities that can take advantage of. So for instance, in the course of my doctorate, I've had to read more economics than law, a whole lot more economics than law. Right now, I think in the terms of Homo economicus, the economic man, the rational self-utility maximizer. And some of the things that I see people in my university do are simply out of this world. Simply, I don't have a lot of time. I could have gone into a few examples. Simply out of this world. But that is on the intersection between law and finance. And these guys are doing mathematical estimations of how a change in law will affect market performance. Coding legal principles into numbers and using that to run mathematical regressions to predict how a change in law will affect performance. These are lawyers, I promise you. So today's world offers you so much more. It really does. It really, 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 really does. And she gave the example about sports law, for instance, and like I mentioned, outer space law, these sorts of new things, AI. I mean, we are going to have issues at some point with artificial intelligence and machine learning and all that. It's just coming. It's coming, right? Start thinking. Maybe these things don't hit you home right now because they're not the first thing that will get you your job. But somewhere in your mind, start thinking about these things and about how to take advantage of these opportunities that have and will present themselves. I think that's about it. That's about all I wanted to say to you today. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll take some questions afterwards if there's time for that.
Thank you very much, Reginald. Another round of applause, please. Thank you very much. And just to kind of summarize what he said, and he made 3 points which are very important. And then the first is it's important to identify and recognize and take opportunities as they come. The opportunities might not always be visible, and it's important to remain alert. So, and somebody, and maybe it's just important that I say so now, I was discussing with somebody who works in one of the international development banks, and it's been somebody that's been my friend since probably when I was 2 years post-call. So maybe I should say, when I was 2 years post-call, I used to do a lot of big transactions then, because I used to work in very small firms. So I was that girl that they would always push the dirty work to, but it made me learn. So I made a lot of big name contacts then. So one of them said, so I went to him, I said, I've even stopped trying to get work with this your bank. He said, no, Kumbi, why would you say that? That never reject, never stop taking opportunities. And that stuck to me up till today, because it's important to recognize that opportunity is like a moving train. The way you have that idea is the same way somebody else has that idea. It's important to recognize and to take the first. Ayodele only made a point about the first entrant principle. It's important to take opportunities as they come, because you might have to wait quite a long time again before that opportunity comes. So thank you. And then the second point about hard work and grit and grind. It's important that to recognize that academic grades will get you into the door, but it wouldn't keep you there. And our pastor can always say about, academic grades, yes, they're good, but hard work and grit will keep you in that profession, will keep you. You need a lot of hard work. You need a lot of grind. When I still see my dad, I think I was saying one time, and then I went to the library, I saw my dad. He's still the kind of guy that won't do law pavilion. He would do the library. He would do the actual hard copy, sit down, read kind of person. And I said, why are you still here now? He said, Kumbi, you must always, there is no law. If you ask my dad about a case, he would even tell you the citation. I'm like, how do you people do these things? That hard work, that grit, that grind, it's so important to recognize that. And there's absolutely nothing that can stop a man who is not willing to give up. It's important that that, if you're just not willing to give up in anything that you do, if you're just taking that and you keep going and you keep going, somehow, if you keep even hitting a rock, one day the rock will give in. So it's important that you recognize that. And I think one of the most important points that Reginald made, which maybe this might not be useful again for pastor and honorable justices that are here, but it's important for us to recognize that the world is changing. The competition, guys, the competition is stiff. I'm not trying to scare you, but the competition is fierce. So it's important that you recognize that the competition, and it's important that you distinguish yourself. The world that we're going to be operating in is a totally different world. And this issue of AI, somebody was telling me about JP Morgan now, that there's something that about this whole artificial intelligence that can do due diligence in less than 10 minutes or 15, some crazy. I'm like, no, that one is still in UK, or they should keep it in UK, that they shouldn't come and bring it to Nigeria. Yeah, so let's still be doing our due diligence. That could be you be sitting down there thinking you are doing due diligence when they've already done. So it's important to recognize that the world that we're doing, the world that we're going to be living in, it's very competitive, and the market is changing, the competition is changing. So we need to start thinking about those three issues. And with that, let's just give Reginald another round of applause, because he made some very excellent points. Excellent points. Thank you very much. So moving on swiftly, we're going to introduce another speaker by the name Charles AJIBOYE. And to take the recitation for Charles AJIBOYE is Babanride Tomiloba.
Good evening, everyone. Charles AJIBOYE, a result-oriented lawyer detailed author, seasoned speaker, chartered mediator, and chartered conciliator. He is an associate of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, an advisor at the Institute for Productivity and Business Innovation Management, a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators, is the founder of IC Cube Nigeria, Penthouse Gardens Limited, and CA Collections. He is the executive partner at the Penthouse Law, an avant-garde 21st century upwardly mobile multi-service law firm with 13 full-time lawyers, and publicity secretary of the Nigerian Bar Association, Ikeja, the second largest of the 125 NBA branches. His awards include STN Best Brain of the Year, All Times Transcendent Leadership Award, and Young Entrepreneur of the Year by Ideation Hub Africa. Charles is an adept negotiator and understands the laws of business and the business of law. He has an uncommon way of applying the law to business. He has provided solutions to several high net worth individuals and organizations on business growth, expansion, strategy development, and program implementation. He has been featured by various electronic and print media, such as Channels TV, TV Continental, Galaxy TV, African Independent TV, This Day, Punch, The Sun, and The Nation newspapers, and City People magazine, and several online platforms, as one of the leading lights in youth advocacy and silent change agents in Nigeria. Is the convener of the annual IC Cube National Startup Conference. In the 4 years the event has held, it has physically gathered over 3,000 young people and sustained the support and partnership of such brands as Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, GT Bank PLC, Etisalat, Philips Consulting, eTransact, Jobberman, Honeywell, Nestle, Jumia, among many others. He has worked with institutions such as Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Dilde Limited, amongst others. He is currently the legal auditor to CARS 45 and CARS Bars Limited, Automobile Limited, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Charles AJIBOYE.
It's empty barrels make the loudest noise. So Reginald's introduction very small. Doesn't have anything to prove. You're laughing. Any of you are like me. Pardon me, I lost my voice over the weekend. Pastor, Honorable Justices, my lords, Reginald, wife, doctor, thank you very much for managing me here. And I hope I can say anything in 20 minutes, but I'll just say something. And I respect so much the people that are here. But I think they managed to shock me here to give hope to some people that are like me, who did not have the luxury of attending a federal university, like Reginald, who did not have the luxury to have a first class, but had the rare privilege to graduate with a third class from the university. I guess, well, don't be in a hurry, oh. Don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry. First class is sweet, oh. I've read that your article, that very long one, and I agree. And you know, when I read that article, where you were defending good grades, and people talking about people struggling on the streets, I repented of something I used to do. Because when I said these things, people that have failed in school like me start feeling like they really did not need to pass again. And it is wrong, because you have a lot of advantages when you have that kind of platform, like you said. But you see, mine is to give hope to people that are like me and let you know that it's not that there's still hope. Nothing is lost in the first place. What Regina needs to open the door, I don't need. But what I have to open the door, he doesn't have. And you see, it doesn't make him better than me. Neither does it make me worse than him. It only makes us different. It doesn't make him better than me, and it doesn't make me worse than him. It makes us different. Let me tell you one thing. Life celebrates us for our differences, not for our similarities. If you would rise in life, and if you will make any impact in anything you do, you will be able to communicate your own unique selling point, your difference. And that's why I say I'm bringing hope to those people who may have that kind of story. But let me not just leave it that way. I finished from school in the University of Ado-Ekiti, a very great school that has been renamed now to Ekiti State University. Very, very great school, fantastic school. And I remember when I first got there, it was because of a lot of passion. I wanted to study law by all means. I was supposed to be doing political science at University of Lagos. After I'd waited like 4 years, I wanted to get into school. Then they said they were not going to give me law, and I said no. Damn Unilag, we go to where law is. And then they went all the way to that place. And I remember back then, the road to the admin was not even hard. It was really a village school. My mom cried when she first got there. I said, what kind of a guy will leave Unilag and come to this place? And I said, it's just law. Let me just be a lawyer, Sha. You're laughing too much. I hope you are listening. And I got in there to do a diploma in law. I finished 2 years. And they would not admit me for direct entry. So I went back to write jam. And then the only place I knew a lot of lecturers, because I don't have the luxury of these people that can make phone calls, people that know, I didn't have all that luxury. So I was lucky I spent 2 years in an environment where I knew most of the lecturers. So I could lobby my way by knocking each door. I said, sir, I did jamu. I had 245. And somehow I gained this ultimate admission into Cambridge, Ekiti. And it was one of the best things that has ever happened to me. I read law. And then, for reasons best known to me, because I've learned and I've admitted everything as my error, and I don't give excuses. For reasons best known to me, I was to graduate with a third class. And then I saw my friends who had made 2-1. They were crying, 2-2. They were crying. And I just went to the board and I saw third class. I'm out of here. My excitement was I did not have a spillover. Because I was convinced about one thing, the world was going to welcome me. I was convinced about, I'm not praying, I was convinced about the dominance that God was going to give me in the world. So I did not enter with a defeatist approach. But I wanted to convince myself about something, that something went wrong with the lecturers that scored me in university. So when I got to law school, I shut down a lot of things and I said, okay, for whatever is worth, let's just make the first class. We know it's not the first class that matters, but let's just make it. So I read like I was going to die in Lagos campus. I read. And yes, in the days that first class mattered, in the days that 2-1 was not common, at least I made it 2-1. Now, in that time, there were four first class in my set, and 126-1 of all the thousands of us that were in law school. So even the big law firms wanted to even hear those of us that had 2-1. So once you threw your CV out, they were going to call you. Then the question I answered the most in my life, how did you make a third and a 2-1? People made 2-1, then they made pass in law school. And you were. And I said, because I was not serious then, now I'm serious. And then everybody called me. Olani, Aluko, Babalakin. They all called me for interviews there. Now if you try, they won't call you. Third and 2, and they won't even call you. First class, they are looking for a job. 2-1, but make it make it first. But one thing I must tell you is this. Many of the things they've said, I agree. And I wanted to just stand up and I wanted to just say the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God. Because there's really nothing to say again. You've heard it all. But something just said I should still encourage people that are like me. I don't know what your story is, but I'm a blessed man. I've experienced favor from God. I can't remember having a note from anybody. In-laws, well, I don't have in-laws that are very powerful too. But I married well. No, I married right. See, I was also very sure about the fact that I did not want to have any further burden in my lifetime. So marrying a good woman was very important. You can't have a third class and have a bad wife. Yes. No, Reginald can manage that. With a hat trick and a bad wife, he'll be fine. Now God is just being unkind. Why would you give him a good wife and a hat trick? However, I have the best woman. I remembered when I left paid employment. And this is the first thing I want you to keep.
you must live a life that is beyond you. If all you want to achieve in life is about you, you are a failure from start. Ab initio, you are not going far. You see, God has to have a stake in the success you achieve for you to easily achieve it. So when I speak about the fact that I know that there is a distance or there's so far I will go in the world, in the global space, I'm saying it because God has a stake in it. It is important for God to put me in certain places because some people need to have hope. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if all you want to be is a silk, you want to have Cambridge, Harvard, you want to work in Chevron, Alanium, you want to drive what kind of cars that matters to you. If that's all you want, I will join the ministry of God Almighty to ensure you do not make it. Because your nuisance value to our generation will be high. And I'm serious. But if you have a life of a problem solver, there is something bigger in you. So when I see everybody wanting to relocate abroad, and I'm sure there are many of you in the room here, you're looking for the next opportunity to have a visa. If some people had the kind of thing that this man had, they will not come back again. They will not have this opportunity to share. And his story has inspired somebody, but they'll be locked up somewhere there, living in some 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom duplex, driving 2 cars, probably on mortgage, and then they'll feel they're successful, they're fulfilled. No. One of the things you must be passionate about is how many lives you can touch with what God can do for you. And then God will do it for you because you will touch lives. I'm not praying. It's too religious. I'm only telling you what God will do if He has a stake in your life. Basic thing. Are we together? You have to have greatness living in you. Something beyond what next after law school. Something beyond what am I going to do when I live here that can change space. I'm not talking about outer space. I'm talking about the space, generation, people next to you. I remember when I left law school before I got my result, I have this organization I started like 13 years ago that works with startups. It's called ICCube. She must have mentioned it when she was talking. And then I was in law school because I locked up for 1 year. We had no program. We didn't go to any school. We didn't talk to any teenager. We didn't do anything about businesses and everything. So when I finished from law school, before call and before service, I packed my calendar full when the result was to be coming out. And I was going from one school to the other, from one teenage group to the other, to see how we can empower them. But you have to have that kind of life. And then if you really want to go far after law school, you have to be hungry for it. A lot of them have said about hard work, they talk about vision, but I can't find any other better word for it. To say that you really get what you really want. And that's just the truth. Dreams are never too big. Goals are never too large. It's your hands and your heart that is always too short. If only you can put yourself together and be hungry enough for what you want, then you will find out, like many of everybody have said, you will get it. You will get it. It only depends on how hungry you are. I'll quickly say something that I heard before I continue. I don't want to forget it. You know, there's this whole excitement about what litigation is about, why you must do it in your first year. But then after we say that, we come back to the fact that the world is global. I love litigation. I've had several instances, and that God has given me so much honor in court. I go to court, maybe I make an argument, or I move a particular motion, and then you have this back and forth with the judge for 30 minutes, 1 hour, and then eventually you get what you want, and then people come outside as if they came for a conference. Can we have your card, please? They leave their lawyer inside and come and collect your card outside. That's how much I love litigation, and I think that's how well I've been able to profit from it. I've made a lot of money from litigation as well. But please, like he said, the world is changing. You really, and I'm sorry that I'm saying something different, but at least I will balance on people's thoughts. Do you understand? And everybody speaks from his strength and from the angle of how much he has seen. But if somebody meets you to go to court and you have never appeared before a judge, must you go to court? Must you? As in, really, must you? Must I know how to appear before a judge? If I can appear, I can manipulate the boardroom, I can handle boardroom. If that's where I'm called for, why don't I just sit on it? Where is the area of specialization and expertise? Now, you really cannot know everything. Litigation is even one thing. But then we make litigation look like a foundation that you must build everything upon. No, it's also one thing. It's one of the many foundations you need to build. And that, you know, a lot of us come out, and I've seen people throw away a lot of opportunities because they want this particular foundation. They have been told that that foundation is good, and if you don't have that foundation, you cannot go far. If opportunity that is thrown to you in the beginning does not go in that lane of that foundation, explore that one, and you'll be shocked that maybe you really don't even need that other foundation. I have people that we finished in law school together. The last time they wore their wig and gown was at the call to bar. They are very successful lawyers. They are very happy. They have missed nothing. And it doesn't mean that they cannot contribute to any conversation we are having. Because it is not only your experience. In fact, using your experience to learn by your own experience is one of the cheapest way you can learn. You should learn with the experience of others. And there's a lot of moot, there's a lot of mock you have done, there's a lot of court visits you can have. You know, so let us just think about that. Now, let me just, in the next 5 minutes, talk around the kind of topic they gave me. Now, that topic had something about how to survive as a sole proprietorship, and I said that's even rubbish. That's not even one of the things I want to achieve. So that topic presupposes that because I started the Penthouse Solicitors on my own, I probably set out to be a sole proprietor. No, it was because at the time I started, a lot of my mates were still looking for jobs. And I did not start because I wanted to start. I started because I had a strong passion for ICQ. It was affecting my job with my employer. I felt I was cheating and I was not focusing enough. So I left thinking I was going to be able to have more time for people. Then hunger came. And then because I was very hungry, I decided to find some business to do, if you're talking about business. So I came into the business of law, having been qualified to practice it. So I started the firm as a business. And maybe that's why my approach to it is as a business. And when you're talking about businesses, the first thing that must drive you is the hunger to succeed, the hunger to grow it. And then you do your feasibility studies and see what areas you want to position yourself for. And then afterwards, you come up with your vision on how far or how big you want it to grow. And then regularly, and I'm already giving you tips, I'm not going to number them. And then regularly, you are reviewing those processes you have taken, the steps you have taken, and you are trying to grow it. But at the same time, I would not advise that you jump out of law school and just go and start a law firm. It's very common now. People do it because, one, they are not opportune to have good grades. Two, they are not opportune to have good networks that can give them good jobs. Three, because they just feel that somebody is going to control their life. So have you heard that kind of thing? I would never work for somebody. It's a very foolish statement. It's not pride. It's foolishness. So, why would you never work for somebody? Why? What's inside you? So, do you understand? So, I have to make it as simple as that. As in, how many are you that? Who is looking for you? Who is that you are so full of yourself? So, if you need to go learn anything, open your mind. Don't be restrictive. And the way they said it is that, come with an open mind. And what I just wanted to do is to open it a bit so that I also include litigation into the openness. Just open your mind. And if you are sure about what you want, some people are lucky. They are sure very early. If you fall in that category of people that are very sure, very, very sure, and you are sure, because, it can be somehow, I say this all the time, that moment when you think you are right is a conviction that you could be wrong. Because indeed, you cannot be wrong if you never thought you were right. And so when you are so sure now, it's a proof to me that you may be wrong. However, you can take chances with it. And then look at your path and then begin to follow it. The truth about it is that whatever you can dream eventually, you can always achieve it. And that is not motivation. It only depends on how more hungry you are for it. What you are ready to give up to achieve it. And then, I'm not sure if anybody has mentioned it, but you must find some form of a mentor, some form of a role model that you pattern your life after. Not just that you be calling people, you find a lot of people that just do mentoring. They want someone like doctor need to mentor them simply because when they finish law school, they want to work with BLOOMFIELD. So all those kind of chop me, I chop you, mentoring, all those sucky relationship, you need to grow beyond it and see how you want to come into people's lives, whether they are above you or below you. You want to contribute when you contribute, you find out that you'll be able to take from it. I was sharing the vision of Penthouse law with a mentor of mine, who is in the law firm that is a partner in BNC. And then I remember sharing to a particular level about how big we will go. And I talk about it so that when it happens, somebody will go and pick this thing and say, internet never forgets. I say, this guy said it that time. Oh. And we're talking about how big we're going to go and how there's no law firm in Nigeria that is as big as we are going to become. And well, I know they're also running, but it's not a competition. And then the next day, he just sent a courier to me and then sent me 4 books. I've never even seen those books before. You know, one of them is Conduct on Becoming. You should read that book, especially if you ever wish to start up a law firm or run a partnership, or But that was the second world's largest law firm at the time. How they rose and how they fell, and that was a very, very deep book. I'll round up with saying this thing to you. Because I just have to pick some things here and there. Nobody is first in life, and life is not a competition. If you're first to get into secondary school, it doesn't mean you will graduate with the best result. Your friend that was last to enter into the university does not mean it will be the last to graduate. Neither does it mean his result will be the worst. Do you get? When you come into real life and then you get married before your friend, it doesn't mean your wife will put to bed before his. If your wife put to bed before his, it doesn't mean your second child will be born before his still. You see, in anything you find out in life, there is really no first. There is really no best. And that's why I've held a position with the Ministry of Education, I've partnered with the Ministry of Education about, on some issues before now, that even grading system should be removed from secondary school downwards. And we should run something like what we have in the university. There is no first, there is no second. I have a third class, you have a 2-2. I have a 2-1, you have a pass. Everyone is graded by his own strength. And that is why, as you finish law school, ensure that you are the one you are trying to be better than. Don't try to be like Charles. Don't try to be like my Lord. Don't try to be anybody. Try to be better than you are today. And for every time you shift the goalpost for yourself, and you say, I have achieved this yesterday. I have my colleague here, Martins, please put your hands together for me. He's one of those very brilliant people like Reginald, and he's with us at PENTHOUSE. He just called me and he said he wanted to come with me. And thank you for making out time. For every time you shift forward the goalpost for yourself, you find out that you can achieve more. And we do that all the time at the PENTHOUSE. We sit down again and we're always doing our SWOT. Is this our strength? Is this still our weakness? Is this still our opportunity? What are the threats we have? And we're always doing our SWOT all the time. Keep shifting the goalpost for yourself and you'll get there. God bless you.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Charles AJIBOYE. Thank you very much. And just to summarize again what he has said is life rewards us for our differences and not our similarities. And never enter life with a defeatist mentality. And always never rule out the purpose of favor and the place of favor. And also to be the better version of yourself every single day. That life is not a competition. The only person that you're in competition with is yourself. So keep shifting the goalpost for yourself and never stop dreaming. If you can dream it, you can achieve it. All right, thank you very much. A round of applause again for Mr. Charles AJIBOYE. Thank you for making our time. Thank you. So right now we're just going to go into the interactive session, but before then, would like to introduce to you this book that has been written by Oscar, or pronounce it, Arobi. Is a lawyer and he has written a book on legal tactics and antics. And then the first chapter, which we found very interesting, is Now I Am a Lawyer, What Next? So it cannot get more apt than that. So if we recommend this book that has been written by Mr. Oscar, he's also a lawyer, and the first chapter you might find interesting to talk about after being a lawyer, what happens. And it's sold for 2,000 naira, and it's available at the back, right? Okay, so if you're interested, please just meet any of the ushers or any of the organizing committee members and you'd be given the book. Thank you. So right now, we're going to go into the interactive session. Okay, round of applause for Justice.
If I had another opportunity, what do you think I would do? I will go back to law school. I will go back to law school. I would improve. I missed pass. Look, narrowly. I will do better next time. So questions. Pastor says he will make first class. But I will make that Cambridge. Even if it's in Ekiti, I will make Cambridge. Yes, questions please, yes. Let's just know how many so that we can save time. 1, 2, keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We're taking maximum of 5 questions, ma'am.
Anyone from here? This line is not participating at all. They've not said anything. Okay, at the back.
There's another one at the back.
Okay. So 5.
Okay. Okay, starting. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Blessing Ohonda. My question is directed to Mr. Reginald Aziza. Thank you for the wonderful speech. I want to say my first contact with you made me wonder if I was dreaming enough. Because I'm actually shaking now, like my dreams are weak. I'm shaking right now, seriously, I'm saying the truth. My question is this. You inspire me a lot. I had to get into LinkedIn because of you, and I'm happy I'm seeing you. I'm sorry for this plenty talk, but I'm happy I met you. The question is this. What are the challenges you faced in all your pursuits, and how were you able to handle them rather? Because you've just told us of all the things you were doing. What are the challenges you faced in reaching your goals right now? Thank you.
Number two, yes.
Good evening, everybody. My lords, doctor, and everybody on the panel. Good evening. Okay, so my question is directed to Mr. Aziza.
Your name, please.
Oh, yes. My name is Vincent Okonkwo. What I need to ask...
Please allow him. Let's hear him, please. Can the noise go down? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I remember you mentioned something that actually got me thinking. I remember something we did in jurisprudence back in school, and it was a quote by Roscoe Pound that you can't learn law by learning law. It's actually pretty simple. Law intersperses with every facet of life. So if you're actually going to be a good lawyer, you have to have an understanding of many other fields and how they interact with law. And it's even more so in today's world where there are so many things happening. Going into the future, lawyers would need to be more involved in other spheres than they would be in law, because that's where law is heading, right? And I remember, okay, after school, I took a course in investment banking, one of my curiosities as a then. And in the class, right, a lot of the conversations I had absolutely no idea about. Most persons there were people from economics, accounting, and the rest. And they could follow up with things like valuation, and I had no idea what they were talking about. Now, the problem I had still remains. As a lawyer, you need to understand how it worked in other fields. And you mentioned something about that, what's happening in your course currently. But how do we manage this? What challenges have you experienced? What advice would you give? Learning how to manage the depths of information you have as a lawyer. You know a lot about law, but you have so little information about these other areas. And trust me, you can understand how it works to a certain level, but the basics, not understanding the basics would always be a problem. So how do we manage this? How do you become a lawyer that understands how law intersperses with other fields that you're interested in? How do you manage to learn enough to be able to manage everything together? So thank you.
Thank you. Number 3. Number 5, please come forward. You are too far away.
Good evening, everyone. I'm grateful for this program. My name is Nkamibo Emilia Ebere. What? Okay. My question goes to Mr. Reginald, and I'll just go straight to the point. Sir, I want to know, apart from having first class, like, were there other things that made the opportunity for you to study abroad possible? Like, are there other options, you know, stuff like that? Thank you very much, sir.
Next person.
Number 4. Okay.
Okay, I'm Oluwapelumi Oluobadeji. My question goes to Mr. AJIBOYE and other members of the panel. You mentioned something about having your own NGO and then private practice. For instance, I have a passion for teaching, not lecturing. I mean primary school, secondary school stuff. And I still want to be a lawyer. And every time Rule 7 will always pop up in my head. Do not practice law with another profession. And it's easy, it's settled if you want to lecture in the university as a lawyer, you're lecturing law. What if you want to really teach down to the head? How do you, is there any rule against that?
Number 5.
Thank you. Can we just keep...
Number 5.
Can we just maintain some kind of silence, please? Number 5. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I like to appreciate members of the tribunal, the panel. Thank you for the knowledge sharing session. My question is this. Given the competitive nature...
Your name.
Mary Adeyemo. Given the competitive nature of law as it is now, and by the way, there is another set in law school, so there are 2 sets in law school at the moment. What is that thing that would make my application or any other person's application stand out? Because the top law firms, we all are fighting to secure. The spaces are not as many that can entertain every one of us. So what is that distinct factor that will set my application apart to give me the kind of opportunity that will meet my preparedness to succeed? Another question is with regards to master's application. So what is your advice with regards to master's application? Do you think I should take a master's because I should take it, or because I need to join the community of intellectuals, or because it's going to give me or increase my network? So thank you very much.
Thank you. Justice, can we take one more question? Is that okay?
Well,
just one more question.
I hope it's a fresh question, not...
Yes, it's a fresh question. Good afternoon. My name is good evening. My name is Kwashe Omobolanle. So I want to ask a question to everybody on the panel. So it's about this. We are a few weeks to our exams, and 2 weeks to our exams, and everybody's already applying. Everybody wants to come to Lagos. So my question is this: do you have to be in Lagos, like the beginning stages of your career must still be in Lagos? Can't you be in other states? Because I live in Port Harcourt, and what I'm hearing from my friends is that you can't go back home, there are no law firms there, you have to start in Lagos. So do I have to start in Lagos? Yeah, is Lagos the only state? So that's my question.
Thank you very much. Those are all the questions that we've got. Yeah, I think, Reginald, you can start. Yes. She need the mic.
Can I ask Reginald a question too?
Okay, thank you very much for the questions. I'll start off with Blessing. Her questions around challenges that I passed through and how I was able to work my way around them. I think the biggest challenge for me was simply, in my opinion, just how much effort had to go in. Fortunately, my background is not is not great in the sense of wealthy and affluent, but okay. I mean, I didn't have to go to school hungry, or I didn't lack anything in school basically, but I was able to just have a normal schooling life. But given the extent of ambition I had set out for myself, these things were not going to achieve themselves sitting down, and the amount of effort that had to go in was painful. And that's right off from university into where I am right now. And like I said earlier, my wife can speak a lot to what it takes. It's not pretty, because I'm consistently going on below 5 hours of sleep Sunday to Sunday, just pushing it through. And oftentimes, of course, it's the volume of information that you have to absorb and have to ensure remains where you want it to be can be daunting. So in terms of challenges, I had and I still have that one big one, a function of just what I set out for myself. And again, going through school, of course, we always had that difficult teacher. And at work as well, unfortunately, you would always have that one difficult person. But the comforting thing was always that this is finite. It's finite. There's a long stop date somewhere. And when I get there, then things will ease off. Right? So just having that at the back of my mind always helped me. Right now on my doctorate, I know that when I'm done, that's it for the academia, unless the Holy Spirit ministers to me and says that the US is still there. Can you do something there? But barring that, that should be the end of this phase at least. Going to Vincent's question on managing the depth of information on other areas. Yes, that's correct. To be a good lawyer, you have to be more than just a lawyer, and you have to incorporate views from different things. Like I mentioned earlier, in the first year of my doctorate, it was from economic history to financial economics to econometrics, developmental economics, you name it. Anything economics, I had to swallow it in to understand how capital markets work. And it's on the basis of that understanding that you then build law on it. Because, I mean, if you think about capital markets, and just to veer off a bit, the two words of capital markets are words of economics, not law. Right? Both capital and market are economic terms. There's nothing legal about a capital market. But the markets have to function within a bound of rules. And that's where your law comes in. Your law does not create the market. Your law ensures the market works effectively. And you'll see these intersections in different areas. The rule of thumb for me has always been understand your strengths and understand that you are no authority in that other person's area. So that point of recognition, that point of humility, if you like, means that you take the baby steps. You take them right off from the beginning. My very first introduction into econometrics was me going back into mathematical principles. Okay, I have data now, okay, running mean and variance and standard deviations, all that, getting back into the mathematical foundations. And you do the same thing in the different areas where you have to interact with a body of knowledge that is not traditional to you. So build yourself up slowly on that process. Don't try to short circuit it. I've always thought that would oftentimes lead to suboptimal outcomes at the end of the day. Have the humility to understand that this is not your core area. Have the sense of awareness to start off slowly and steadily across taking the baby steps that you need to. And in time, you'll be able to interact with that area with a lot more fluency than you currently are. Emilia asked, what other things would she require to study abroad apart from just first classes, and are the grades that determinative? The short answer is that the grades, again, goes back to my points only for signaling. At the back of my mind, I don't have the results that everybody thinks I have. It signals something. And to create that impression in the eyes of the recipient of the information, you could then use your signaling tool. You could use something else entirely. So you can't get into the biggest of universities with the 2-1. You don't have to have consistent first classes all the way, right? You can't get into the biggest of universities with a lot of with the 2-1 with a good result. Let me put it that way. With a good result, solid experience, and what's becoming very important nowadays is volunteering. The sorts of connections you have with the world. What sort of things are you doing outside of school? So aside your studies, you are the president of XYZ, you have led something, you have interacted with a sphere of life. You can show a lot of these things that then stand you apart. So if I to give an example, for instance, if you were to look at the US schools, in my opinion, they prioritize these additionals a lot more than, for instance, the UK schools that are very traditional, grades focused. So if you get into, you can't get into a place like Harvard on the basis of only your grades. They will require you to show more than that. And therefore, even with a 2-1, with a regular strong result, but you are able to show passion about a particular field, you're able to show how that field connects with what you want to do in the future, you're able to show how that all adds up into a coherent story on your life, you will get into them. So don't take it that the grades are the only thing. The grades create an impression. That impression can be created using different tools, right? And Mary Ademo asked how to make an application stand out and about a master's degree. Why do you take a master's degree? I'll defer the first aspect of that question. I think there are people here who are actually recruiters of labor, so I think they're in a much better position to answer about what they see in applications that make the applications jump out. But why will you take a master's degree, and is it just to be in this body of scholars in the field? I think usually you would want to take further education to take you to a next step in your understanding of a particular subject. Now, getting into Olanu Ajayi, for instance, from NYSC, I got thrown into specialized transactions practice group of the firm. What that meant was I was doing a lot of project finance, and right off from university, I was thrown LMA facility agreements. I did not understand the first thing about these agreements, right? I couldn't wrap my way around them. You have a facility agreement that's 87 pages. Why am I reading this long document? I couldn't understand what was going on. Of course, you can learn on the job, or you can learn on the job and add to that knowledge coming from people who sat down to write that thing. And that was the benefit that I had in my program in Cambridge. I had the global head of the finance practice of Clifford Chance, one of the biggest law firms in the world, who actually wrote those agreements, sits down like this in a presentation, right? So there are things that added education can give you. The exposure is another one. In the course of last year in Oxford, I had books autographed by the Prime Minister of Australia, the former Prime Minister of Australia, actually, who had written the book, coming to school to present it. These guys were all over the place. They were just there. They were there in school. And as such, that exposure meant that your worldview changed. You saw the world a lot bigger than what you had in your space. So like they would say, a person who has not gone to another farm thinks that his father's farm is the biggest, right? But when you see what people are doing with the intersection of law and finance that I mentioned previously, you know that that space goes beyond just these agreements that you are reviewing and pushing out. The exposure it brings, the experience it brings, and quite importantly as well, the signaling it can give, I think are core reasons why I would say further education at some point. It's a separate question When to take the further education is a separate question, in what fields to take it, but these things will be good reasons to do it in the first place. Do you have to be in Lagos? Again, I think I will seek permission to shift that question to people who perhaps are better placed to answer it. My short answer, however, will be not necessarily. But of course, Lagos is the hub of commercial Nigeria, which means that it gives you a lot of opportunities to experience things that will just not come up in other places, and that you can rise up quite well and you can be at the cutting edge of things if you're in Lagos, as opposed to being if you're practicing law in Warri, where I'm from, for instance. I mean, it's great. You have SCNC in Warri, of course. You have big lawyers there. But there's just a difference. It's a difference in sort of matters you get. It's a difference in sort of experiences that come to you. But I'm sure they can speak a lot more to these things. Thank you.
I'd look at one or two of these questions. I'm an employer of labor, so what jumps at me when I receive several, because when you send, and maybe this is a little secret, when you send to employment@bloomfield-law.com, I'm one of those that receive, so many of us receive, a few of us, 2 or 3 of us, I'm one of those that receive. I'm the staff partner. Now, every now and then, certain things jump at me. One, grades. So if I was to see Reginald's CV, of course not now, I'm sure I can't afford him. But if I was to see his CV 6 years ago, I would have called him immediately. I would have asked the practice manager to call him. Grades and school. I mean, that's very basic. But at times, being different. So the way you even write your cover letter, I just see something different. This guy writes quite well. Okay, let's even have a conversation with him. I don't even look at the grades at times. That's second. Third is market reputation. So there are people we look for. So maybe I was on a deal with Reginald and he's taking me to the cleaners, even though I think I'm quite brilliant, but he's taking me to the cleaners and I think I'm more experienced. Of course, when we want to recruit and he's still young, and maybe Olaniwu is dilly-dallying in making him senior associate, and we think, yes, maybe because we've got several other more senior people, we're going to invite him and make him senior associate and pay him double what he was earning. That's been, I mean, maybe I shouldn't be telling you some of our strategies. So that's one thing. So I will, market recognition is important also. Maybe because you are young, we can't speak so much about market recognition, but great, one. Secondly, the way you write your application might be very short, but something you just think this person writes well. I've seen at least one of those, and we did employ that person, and the person's gone on to excel. The person's gone in-house to an E&P company now because it did excel when he came in. So those are some of the things, and of course, issues like, do you know someone? That's honestly the truth. Every now and then you see a name, and you're like, okay, I've been chasing this company for a while, and this name appears to be similar to the name of the general counsel. No, but I'm being realistic. That's the truth. Because it's first a business, like Mr. AJIBOYE did say. It's a business. So if we don't have transactions, brilliant people, I don't know if you've noticed, brilliant people thrive on doing work. So if you bring in a brilliant person and pay him several millions of naira and he doesn't get to do work, he'll get dissatisfied and leave, even for less money. So we need transactions. That's the truth. So if I do see a name and I think, oh, this guy is related to this person, or I've heard one or two, I'm going to ask questions. Of course, I know a few people here and there, and I'm going to ask questions indirectly. Of course, I'll be smart about it. And you might get an invite. That's the truth. Ask. That's how maybe the bigger firms will do less of that now because they are now big. That name alone is sufficient to get you a job. Everyone's mentioned Olaniwu several times here. Mentioned Aluko a few times. Mentioned a few firms. I mean, not many people have mentioned Bloomfield. So that's the truth. When you get to that point, where market recognition also internationally, maybe you will reduce, but check. Initially, when they all did start, that was it. So I think those are key for us. I don't know if I've answered your question satisfactorily. Then, the only reason why I have a PhD here is because I want to teach. Because I think it's fulfillment. It's not. They didn't teach me anything I didn't know. I didn't learn. I've done a lot of research. I've probably written over 100. If you check business day in the last 10 years, I've been writing. I write intellectual stuff, I write soft stuff, I write stuff that gets me into trouble and gets me sacked. I write all sorts. So I've done a lot of research, and one way you can develop expertise is to write, because you don't want to write something that is stale. You don't write something that someone will respond and tell you that you're writing nonsense. People would vary in their views or differ in their views, but it's good that they say they agree to an extent, but they got... So research helps. Must you be in Lagos? Must you be in Lagos? It's neither here nor there. But, okay, so let's ask a simple question. Maybe 10 lawyers, 2, 3, 4 years ahead of you, who you admire, where are they? That's important. Yeah, you may want to be different, but is it different in that way? Do you really want to go to Warri? Due respect to Aziza, do you really want to go to Warri? I'm not sure. You know the sad thing, even though much of the concessions are in the Niger Delta, when it comes to doing those transactions, they will send lawyers from Lagos. I get to go to Abuja to the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. I get to send lawyers from Lagos, even though we've got some sort of correspondence in Abuja, but we send guys from Lagos. So I think that exposure, the quality of the transactions, this is a commercial nerve center of the country. That's it. Maybe you can consider Abuja, depending on what. Now, it goes back to, what do you really want? Do you have a strategy to achieve what you want? If the first option isn't available, is there a second option which is equally good? There are a few regional firms that are good. These guys used to be with B&I like 20 years ago, then they left to start Sholola and Apana. For example, is a really good firm. So I think you would still get some experience. Those are my own thoughts. Masters, why go for masters? He said much of it, but at times it's just going to play for 1 year. At times, depending on the quality of that school and the quality of guys who will teach you. That's the truth. If you go for masters, if you go to Unilag, you probably are playing for 1 year. That's why I think, because you're not going to attend classes most of the time. You'll be in your law firm morning till night. You would rush through your notes, pass your exam, but do you really know it? So I mean, it depends on how you really look at it, and is it going to get you to where you want to get to? I don't know. I think many things are overrated. That's my view. Maybe it's when you achieve, you then begin to think it's overrated. Maybe before then, if people tell you think they don't want you to achieve what you want to achieve, I think that's as much I'd like to say. Thank you.
Sorry, there's this question that is still hanging. She really wants to teach young children, and she doesn't know how to, because there's a particular rule she might be offending, and she wants to see what your view would be. And there are many others who just read this law just to satisfy fathers, mothers, and all that. But really, they want something else. They have something in mind. So look at that as well.
Okay, I was already asking if there was anything to say again. But I think the way RPC is being taught in law school, are you laughing? So don't give me a signal as if I'm being a rebel of some sort. I'm supposed to be, I'm a custodian of everything that the law stands for. But let me just say that the way RPC is being taught in law school makes it look like it is not the RPC that is in practice. It's not as serious as that too. However, the rules are clear. I will only advise you to study the rules very, very well. And be sure that the rules are against what you said. Or whether it's your own imaginations that have beclouded your reasoning as regards what the rules really, really represent. So if you have a passion for teaching, for example, and you want to volunteer for some public schools around you, to go and be doing some vacation programs, I don't know how that RPC has affected it. Because I know that the moment I left law school, for example, I had a partnership with the Ministry of Education, Lagos State, and then we combined 3 schools together, and we selected students that were in SS3. I had a passion for people that were failing WAEC then, and then, why are you laughing now? And then we put those people together with the permission of the Lagos State Ministry of Education. I taught government. My wife came in to teach economics once in a while. And then we had people that were teaching different subjects just because we wanted to be sure that all those guys in public schools at that time had some sort of support at the tail end before they wrote their exams. And I don't know whether it was our input, but I'm sure it contributed to it. About 95% of them did very well. A good number of them are studying law now. So I don't think it stops what you want to do. It's application you would have to see through. The rules are about, doing another job whilst you are doing this, combining things, more of things that are incompatible. But you need to study it very, very well. To be sure, that's just what I will keep emphasizing. Study the rules very, very well. And be sure that they are for or against. I remember when I wanted to start some of the businesses I do now, and someone was like, RPC. I said, how does RPC stop what I'm doing? I said, I don't understand. And I think I also play on virtually every level of the Nigerian Bar Association. When I mean every level, I mean every level of the Nigerian Bar Association. And I don't know what you are talking about, but just go and study the rules very well and be sure that they support or are against what you are doing. And should it be that what you really want to do is not law, as in practice of law as we know it, don't stress. It's not really that bad. The way you make it look as if because you have studied law. There's this guy, Tech Cabal, I don't know if you know him, Bankole. From the day Bankole got into school, when Bankole got into school, then he attended Ekiti there. Now, you will not know, he's so tush now. But we're together in Ekiti. And I remember he came in, I had just finished my diploma, he was coming in for 100 levels, so I was like some form of a big daddy in class. And then he came in and he said, I just want to study law because daddy wants me to study law. And then he made a 2-1 in university. But that was the much he could endure. When he got into into law school, he couldn't even buy wig and gown. Not because he couldn't afford it, it was like it's such a waste. I'm never going to use it after this ceremony. I just want to get this certificate and go and give daddy. And I'm going to do other things I want to do in life. By every means, take Cabal, the guy is doing well and is happy. You see, whatever makes you sleep, whatever makes you happy, please do it. You just find out that that's where you will thrive the most. So that's much I want to say about that, and just know the rules enough. As regards masters, I'd like to say something in addition to that. A lot of you here, once you are done with service, you are going to start masters because your dad can afford it, Abi? But like Dr. Oni said, it's overrated. For example, the last time we tried to bring in one person into Penthouse, and then our head of personnel just put it on his LinkedIn. We had to ask him to bring it out after about 5 hours. Because within those 5 hours, we had 67 CVs. We were just bringing one person in. If there's anything that gives us a lot of headache, there is when we want to bring in people, because there's too many people you want to pick from. And, when I see masters, this master, for me, it doesn't, when you come from this kind of background, and I really don't look at that. So, masters, I think, is a beautiful thing. It's a good value add. And not just masters, any kind of professional certification you can do. But just be sure that they correspond with your vision in life. They are going to aid where you are going to. Don't do masters because everybody finishes service and goes to do master. And don't do masters because they want you to do it so that you can get a good job. Sometimes you want to get into a place, your master is even the problem. Because they are not even looking for a master degree for that position and are willing and ready to take that position. But your masters will not allow them even call you in the first place. Some people say, that's not the kind of job I'm looking for. It's not true. It may be the kind of job you even need. So just be sure about what masters you are doing. As in masters in what and why. And, for someone like me, I've not been able to condescend again to do masters in some of the schools that are in town here. Having had this kind of experience I've had, I don't want to go to Unilag or AU again. So I want to just take my time, do masters in what I really want, where I really want, and for what I want to do. So, for example, the first master's degree I'll be doing and I'll be starting next year is in Lagos Business School. And it's going to be an MBA. I know why I'm going to do it, and I know what I want from it, and I can plan for it. And all this while it takes me to get it, I'm fine with it. And when I'm going to do my master's in law, I know the school, I know the area, and it's clear to me, and I can plan for it. Why? Because I've had about a decade plus of opportunity to think about where I'm going to and what I really want for myself. So don't do it because everybody is doing it. Just decide. And there must still be in Lagos. This is a church. Ask the Holy Spirit for direction. There are lawyers that are suffering in Lagos. I missed a lot of opportunities. They are suffering in Lagos. Some of us are lucky. We keep seeing 7, 8 digits every month. It's grace. Do you understand? However, some people are also seeing those figures outside of Lagos. And that is the truth. So you can be in the midst of plenty and you'll be hungry. And you can be in the midst of scarcity and you'll be full. And that's why I say you should ask the Holy Spirit. However, I am in support with all they've said. There are opportunities here. And positioning is wisdom. Thank you.
My Lord, we want your input on the interest in teaching, and we also want your input into must it be Lagos, because you're coming from another jurisdiction. So we want to hear you.
Well, I don't think I have enough information to answer that question. Who asked that question as regards teaching? Do you want to teach in addition to being in legal practice? There's one thing that's always worked for me. When in doubt, don't do it. Simple. It has always worked for me, and I think it should work for you too. If you need to really sit down and think about it and have sleepless nights, especially when you think you're violating something, then don't do it. Okay? You've been through the whole hog. You've passed through university, now the law school, and I believe this is what you want, or you're thinking, if you recall what I said earlier on, was first of all sit down and think, what do you want to do, and make sure it's what will make you happy, because you're going to keep doing it for a while, right? And ask for guidance from the Lord, right? If the practice of law isn't what will make you happy, then pick what you're passionate about and then do it. But as regarding combining two, he may get away with it, but you may not. And then there are little decisions that we make, especially early in our careers, that at one time or the other could come back to haunt us, honestly. So take everything into consideration, but if you have any doubts, don't do it. That's one. And then, as a follow-up to that, this is for everyone now. Wherever you find yourself, never be heard complaining, and never be called upon to explain. Do you understand? Let not your boss, as doctor here now, assuming you go to work for him, be heard that you're complaining about stuff. Put your head down, be humble, do the work, and never be called upon to explain anything, especially why you're going to go and teach. Okay? Now, so God will give you the guidance, but if I were you, I wouldn't do it. Now, as regards Lagos, Lagos is the hub. Everybody knows that. It will be a really, really good thing to start from Lagos, but you don't need to be in Lagos to suffer. I've seen, like you said, lawyers that are really affluent and are really well-to-do, and then it's all a matter of economics for most people. And then there are some that are not so well-to-do, right? But the bottom line is, if you can, personal opinion now, be in Lagos, stay in Lagos, cut your teeth in Lagos. When you leave Lagos, there's hardly anything you can't handle. You get different aspects of whatever type of law you want to practice. You meet different challenges, you meet all kinds of lawyers. You will learn from different kinds of lawyers, from the good ones, from the not so good ones. Sometimes it amazes you that some people are even called lawyers, and you would make mistakes, and then you would learn from the mistakes. But it's a good start here, because I don't think after here anything should faze you. So start from Lagos if you're comfortable. Reginald started from, but by the way, I don't think Reginald is human. I think he's an alien. And I've been wondering whether he had a life at all. Well, you say his wife is proof that he had a life, but I don't think so. Reginald, I was going to ask him a personal question outside, but I think I'm going to put him on the spot. Yes, I've never taken a drink in my life. I've never smoked. I will leave it at that. I'm guessing Reginald did not indulge that too. But I don't think Reginald had a life. We can't all be aliens. His wife came in after law school, right? She came in after law school. It doesn't make sense. I've been saying it. I was going to ask him, Oscar. I need to ask you now. I mean, how did you do it? If you notice, I mentioned two things. I don't drink and I don't smoke. I left the other one. Because I'm human. But Reginald is an alien. I mean, we can only aspire, and I'm proud to say that he's here, such a young man, and he's inspiring all of you. And then that doesn't mean that you can't achieve, but if you can't achieve it, be like my friend. Right? I mean, he took the words right out of my mouth. Honestly, before, I didn't know his story, but then he took the words right out of my mouth, and I'm really happy he's here. He's extremely confident, you can see that. He's comfortable in his own skin, he's getting results, and he's telling you his story, and you can see the cockiness I talked about earlier on. I mean, this reminds me of a young me, right? As in, you get, so we can't all be him. And we can't all be him. So those that can't be him, I can't be him, it can be me. Right? So at any time I'm here in Ikoyi, Reginald, I don't think it's too busy for you, and I don't think anytime my court is right here, and I've seen one of my externals here, she knows my door is always open. If after law school, if you call doctor now, he thinks you're looking for a job, but if you want to talk, you can always stop by. Thank you, okay?
Another round of applause for all our speakers. You would agree with me, it has really been an exciting and an insightful session. Thank you very much. We'd like to say thank you to Dr. Ayodele Oni. Thank you so much for all the things that you said today, especially starting off the topic on marine rights. And thank you so much, Reginald, and his beautiful wife, Kende. Thank you so much. We know that you have quite a lot of things to do, but thank you for taking our time. We really appreciate it. Thank you for impacting knowledge. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Charles AJIBOYE. It's another dimension and a difference that you brought to the table, and we really, really appreciate that. And also to Honorable Justice Ahmed Paul BASSI. Thank you so much, sir, for taking our time. Thank you for giving us the wisdom of the old. Thank you so much for balancing it across board. Thank you very much. Another round of applause. I know that it won't be too much for us to get up on our feet and just say thank you for these people who have taken our time even to come and impact knowledge on a beautiful Sunday. They could have done so many other things, but they chose to be here. We really appreciate it. Okay, just to kind of round things up right now, we're going to be doing the presentation of the awards, and that's going to be taken by the pastor of Covenant House Parish. But I think also to introduce him not just as a pastor, he's also the partner of Simmons Coopers. So if you are looking for a job too, he's an employer of labor. So it's important to mention that, and he would be taking the session. So let's. Okay, we had one more speaker that I know that you all were looking forward to seeing today, and her name is YIMIKA, but she had an emergency, unfortunately. She's the founder of Legally Engaged. She was supposed to join us this evening, but she couldn't. We can all take a seat, please. But she couldn't because she had, unfortunately, she had to be somewhere else, but she would have loved to be here. I'm sure that maybe one of the Sundays we'd be able to have her if, you know, time permits and before your exams. Also, calling up right up is our pastor and also the partner. He's also a lawyer. He's an employer of labor. He's recognized in the field. He has made it. Let's give it.
I used to think Kumbi was a very quiet and gentle person. But what she has evolved into after she joined this church is beginning to worry me. What are they growing in this church? But once again, I think I should start by thanking all of you for being here. I want to thank the organizers. I have learned the facility of the church because if I knew then what I know now, I probably would not be a partner in Simon's Cooper anyway. You know the way it is that when I was leaving law school, like many of you, well, maybe a few of you now, but more like my brother Charles here, I had no clue, no direction, but only thing I had was a hunger. I was hungry, I was getting married, I had a wife, I had my mother-in-law, like Peter in the Bible. The mother-in-law was at home and I knew I had to find money somehow, and I just needed to find it. But later on, the vision started sorting itself out. But one thing that has come through what all our speakers have said today is that love God, serve God. And I think that will be the conclusion of the matter. Philippians, I believe, chapter 4, verse 8. Says, whatever things are true, whatever things are pure, whatever things are of good report, whatever things are lovely, think on these things. Is there any virtue in it? Whatever you want to do, make sure that you make God. Now that you have found God, I wasn't born again when I became a lawyer. So I took some risks. Like the Lord said, I did some dangerous things, which down the line, you would have to account for. Amen? But now that you know better, you should not be found wanting. I was telling Kumbi when they were answering the question that would I take a risk? I said, oh yes, I'm a risk taker. When the Lord says, you have to be careful, I said, no, that's the opportunity I'm looking for. If everybody's not doing it. I remember when I was going to start Simon's Cooper, the law says you cannot have a foreign law firm practicing in Nigeria. Simon's Cooper is actually an American law firm. It's Simon's Cooper LLC in the US. So the thing is that you have to find a way around it. So I brought someone from America to come and represent Simon's Cooper LLC in Nigeria. Hallelujah. Amen. And like Charles, you just have to find solutions to the challenges that you find as you go along. And since there was a Nigerian now representing Simon's Cooper, they can practice in Nigeria, not so. The only thing is that a foreigner cannot practice in Nigeria. So for every rule, there's an exception. Your duty as lawyers is to find how to get around that. That is where the money is. That is where the opportunity Doctor was talking about is. Because when there's a challenge, there's an opportunity there. Finding the solution is always where you will make your way and make your living as lawyers. Not all of us will be fantastic lawyers, but as been said, I believe your foundation as litigation lawyer helps you to think out of the box, to think on your feet. But not all of us will ever use a wig and gown. Not everybody would even practice law at all. And of course, not all of us are sharp enough to get first class. That is the exclusive prism of a few. But it is not a bad thing to get first class, trust me. He opens all the doors. Because if you come to Simon's Cooper today with a first class, I will employ you first before I ask what you want to do. That's the truth. The first thing is that anybody that comes to me and says, I will first employ you. Then I say, okay, hey, what can we find for you to do? Because you must know how to do something right. Am I correct? And of course, you can see the evidence of it right beside him. Good to have you here, man. I'm sure that the challenges he had, when they were talking about your challenges, Reginald, I can imagine the challenge of a first-class brain having to talk to this pretty lady to join him for life. It must be a challenge, but I know that like every challenge, he overcome very quickly. So we want to thank you all very, very specially, because from you, I have learned a lot. Honestly, it's been a blessing sitting under your teachings and learning from your experiences, because I thought I knew before. But listening to them again, I'm sure you'll agree with me. We have all learned different things from each of them. So let's give them a round of applause. We want to thank you very much on behalf of the church. And I can assure you, sirs, that we'll trouble you again next year. We will call on you as often as we can as a church. Because one thing we believe in this church is building future lawyers. I'm sure this is the church that has the largest number of lawyers with every sense of it. Am I correct? I was looking at the ushers recently and I said, have so many ushers that are lawyers in this church. We must be doing something right. And so we will call on you to please come again. It may not be for this event next year, but surely we'll be calling on you soon. We have some token awards, because I know you get so many of them. And I want to thank my dear doctor, friend, and brother for all the pain he has gone through and the expense to come here. I'm sure there's nothing we can pay him that the clients can pay him to have come here to share this life-changing experience with us. We want to start by thanking you, Doctor, Mr. Pastor, as it soon is, for this. Please, can you take me out? Please let them see that I know big men too. So I got a free copy. And my own book too is coming up. I'm telling you now, but I won't tell you what subject. The next award or the next plaque we're giving is to Mrs. Reginald Aziza. She will receive it on behalf of Mr. Aziza. Okay, you see, she always does it together with him. Okay, together, please accept this on behalf of the church. We thank you so much for coming. The Lord bless you. The Lord honor you. Please, let them see that I know them too. You see, you better know these guys when you are going to Chevron and you are looking for a job. God bless you. Thank you so much. My Lord, we have the heaviest package for you. You know, every time, when you hear names like Musa, or you wonder that are they Christians on that side of the divide? But I've since learned that there are many Christians, in fact, more fervent Christians than we on the south side who take Christianity as a joke. We present this on behalf of the church. Unfortunately, we had a slight mix-up on this, but we'll come back with a heavier pack to you. Well, thank you very much, sir. God bless you. We'll appreciate you so much. The name was wrongly written, so we'll have to give it back to you later. Thank you very much, Lord. And to Mr. Charles, the serial entrepreneur. God bless you, sir. We pray that through you, many of us are beginning to know the University of Cambridge in Ado-Ekiti. And you will take the school to greater heights and your farm to places you have never been. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. And of course, to the grand organizer, I'm not sure she knew this was coming, but to my Lord Justice Adejumo. She has been a teacher, she has been a mentor. I'm sure you know she deserves all of this. Because just in case you didn't know, and I will advise you, last year when they were going to start the exam, she went to law school and she prayed a prayer. I don't know what she did or what she prayed, but in this church alone, we had 120 students that graduated with first class in this church alone. 120. I don't know how many first class they had in the whole of law school that year, but if we could have 120 of them that worshipped here, I'm sure you know there are some prayers that are hot and are directly connected to heaven. Okay, 29 first class. Then we had 122 ones. But whatever she prayed, I'm sure you don't want to miss that prayer. Do you agree with me? So maybe you should find out from her now and get the date for that prayer. I will advise you, I will beg you, and I will warn you not to miss those prayers because they can be exam changing. We thank you so much, man. God bless you, man. We appreciate you greatly. Please take me forward to let them see. Now that I also know that you have to go and see judges before some things happen. As my brother said, I've learned so much about places you need to see. Please let them say so I can put this on my data page. Amen. Thank you very much. Man. And to my very quiet Kumbi, God bless you.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Thank you. Thank you so much. And let's thank Pastor again for taking out time. It's not very easy for you to take a very busy man. Thank you. Okay, so at this point, we would like to also appreciate those who joined us online. We can see your questions, and we note that a lot of your questions have already been taken. I think that the only interesting question that we saw for Reginald was asking whether you have a social life. But we just thought, but I think the Lord already asked that too. So yeah, thank you all for joining us. We saw the people who joined from Jos, who joined from Ado-Ekiti, who joined from all over Nigeria, and we do appreciate you. Even from America, Daya, we thank you for joining us. So okay, so now we can round up at this time, and also give yourselves a round of applause, because we know that it couldn't have been easy for you to take out time. We know that you have studied and all of that. There are so many things you could have done with this period. Thank you so much for coming. We do not take it for granted, and we do appreciate you. And we hope that you have all learned something. I have learned personally, and I know that every one of you have taken something home. Thank you. So right now we're just going to be calling on the person who will take the closing prayer, so we can all go home. Thank you.
Can we now rise to take the closing prayer? Heavenly Father, Ancient One, we thank you for the grace to be here today, for the grace to learn, for the grace to be imparted. We say be exalted in Jesus' name. Lord, we pray that all the word that has gone forth today, Lord, may they find roots in our heart. May they bring forth much fruit in our lives in the name of Jesus. Lord, we pray that at every point in time that we need this information that we got, may we be able to recall and may we be able to apply in the name of Jesus. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Lord, we pray for our speakers as they depart. Lord, we pray that may your presence never depart from them in Jesus' name. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for in Jesus' mighty name we pray. Yeah, let's share the grace. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the sweet Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen. God's goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our life, and we shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever. Amen.
Listen. Yeah. Thank you, Pastor, for coming. Thank you.